All right. So this week, I really, I thought that it was important for us to, number one, address the fact that we've basically disappeared for a really long time as a podcast. And, for a while, even though we were out of season, we had pretty consistent, thanks to Skittles, pretty consistent social media presence. And we're still reposting and commenting on things. And so the Bronche voice was still alive, right? I had hit a point after the election, right? After there was all this drama and swelling about what everybody had to do to save the country, and here we are still crashing and burning. But at that moment in time, I realized just how fucking tired I was. Like, because as I mentioned earlier, when I went to that voting booth, I was just like, the math don't math here, but here I am, but the math don't math. And I think that this year I really want to focus my energy on paying the fuck attention to what happens from the moment that I do this thing all the way to the moment that they're going to ask me to do this shit again. Like, what is actually happening, right? And how am I actually participating? And so that question of how am I actually participating started to lend itself to even the podcasting space. And I was like, wait a minute. I started to realize that between, Lady Su Bronche, podcasts like the New York Dose or the Rick H Show or Watch Your Mouth with Mozo, and we have a lot of people who are fam who are in the industry. And I was noticing, we keep reposting and talking about the same shit. Like, we're different people and we talk about and do things in completely different ways. But I was like, damn, we're all marketing to the same markets about the same things. And like, how much longer before people are just like, all right, if I saw one person do it, I don't need to tune into the other people, because it's like the voice started to become very generic to me. And I realized when I started this podcast, it wasn't to be a generic voice. It was actually quite specifically to make room for people having to listen, not just to me when I speak, right? Because people are always like, oh, you speak so well, blah, 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 blah. But I was like, but do you know what happens when Skittles is at a table with me? Do you know what I'm actually talking about in those spaces? Because I started to realize the voice that people loved of mine was not the one that was actually critically thinking and speaking out and calling shit like it was. And I was like, nah, I need a space to do that. And maybe this space is the brunch table. So I took a lot of time off because I really didn't feel like I wanted to chime in until it felt right, until there was something that we really wanted to focus on. And, this year, I think that I've been very moved to, for one reason or another, really understand and learn how I could best support and hand power over to the trans community, the Black queer community, all the identities that live under that. Because I feel like there's a lot of conversations that I'm tired of having, but the one conversation that no one seems to be having in an eloquent way, in a strong way, in a way that is actually allowing the people to lead the conversation was this category. And so, I was like, fuck, like, I want to sit back a little bit and like foster relationships in the community and see like where I can add and how we can elevate voice in that space, and not always have it be about talking about the identity, but just period, just because they're here and they're here because I want them here. And if you're noticing that it's just them, then that's for a reason, and ask questions later, but we're not talking. They're not here to teach. They're here to get the fuck out of the way, right? And so I'm trying to figure out what are more ways that I can do that. And I think the podcast is one way, but we're looking forward as a brand to really think about how this platform, this table, can be the table for all and give power to all in a particular way. So we're back, people missed us. And so we're going to give y'all the podcast, but really I want folks to anticipate that Bronche is going in a direction where we're not just here to entertain you and talk about, pop culture. We're really here to start breaking some glass and pushing other things through. And that's the space we want to be in. And if people don't want us because we want to be in that space, then they don't want us. And I don't need to post or sound like any other podcast that's already out there. So that is a lot of why, but also I needed a motherfucking break. I needed to go on vacation. I needed to get the fuck out of my house, right? Like y'all notice now I have new hair. I be changing my hair. I get nails done now. Like Julissa, needed to have some time with Julissa to get to know Julissa. And so it was definitely time well spent. And a lot of wonderful things happen, and I don't want to go into the details of that. You'll hear throughout the season all the stuff I'm working on, but that's where we've been at. We've been out here like really strategizing and thinking about how are we more than just a podcast who's repeating the same shit on a fucking newsfeed and fighting for fucking likes. I didn't come here to fight for no fucking likes. Are you dumb? Like, Skittles, what you been up to though? How did you feel during our break?
Oh my goodness. Well, I think that like one thing that like we all need to consider also is like when we're thinking about like how we took a break, like our fourth season happened right before the world shut down. So we were like heavy releasing throughout the pandemic because we had already had 12 episodes in the bag ready to go, right? And then we started doing, you know, remote episodes for season 5, and that worked out really well and stuff like that. And I thought that that went well. But I think that like we get tired, you know, in both like doing Ladies Who Brunch as well as like creating our own content and doing our own side hustles and achieving our own career goals and then dealing with family and all that stuff. It gets very tiring. And so I think that the break from, you know, having a season and being able to just kind of like concentrate on like our own separate things and you know, finesse what we do on our own to then be able to come back and bring something new to the table and bring something that's like actually going to be of use to our audience and of use to the people that like follow us and listen to us is really important. I feel like I have been just like trying to figure out how I'm going to make what I want in my life come true. I think that after the pandemic, it became very obvious for a lot of people that it was like what parts of your life that you're not happy with, what parts of your life that you feel like you need to make changes to, or what parts that like you want, just how you want to function in the world differently. And I think that happened from both me and Julissa, where we were able to kind of like go ahead and literally make the changes that we've always kind of spoken about and always kind of thought about in the back of our heads, but never actually made the effort to do it because we were on such a go and such a hustle. And so, yeah, I think it was mad beneficial. I think that like being able to like create content and, you know, perform live and you know, figure shit out has been dope. But I'm ready to come back to brunch and fuck it up with y'all bitches.
What about y'all? I mean, I can't imagine how exhausting it must be to be as present and vocal as you guys are when you show up in these spaces.
I like everything y'all said resonated with me so much, like in particularly because like Jack, like we both like put in our work. Like I do like a lot of like the production like side of it and like the graphic design like part of it. And also kind of deciding like what we're gonna talk about, like who we're gonna talk to, and like the meat of the content, like the fleshing out comes from them. But like previously we did 2 seasons a year. Like when we first started, we did like 2 seasons a year, and after like we did a season that sort of bled into like the pandemic, and got caught up in some shit. Like your girls was in a cult for a minute, like got free.
Yeah.
No,
so glad y'all are
out. Came out of that, like did some healing, did a new season, and then we were trying to do another season, like a mid-season and like a second season this year, and we were like, it didn't happen. Like we tried, like we got new equipment, like we planned it, and like the ancestors was just like rest and have something to talk about when you come back.
Yes,
because you're like, I like the part that you resonated, like it's all starting to bleed, we're all sharing the same shit. Like we've in certain spaces, or at least in the community we've managed to build, like we're pretty much in consensus about certain topics. There might be some like little outliers that are willing to listen and like are in the comments trying to figure it out, but we're all saying the same shit. It's like, give it a second, let it marinate, and in the new year we're definitely gonna come out with our, is this our season 6 too?
Lord, see, like this is why Pat.
I believe.
Because numbers.
This might be our 5th season. I think it's
I think it's season 5 too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and I just want to remind people, COVID is happening.
Right.
Like,
It's not to the woods.
that shit was and continues to be emotionally taxing as fuck.
Yeah.
And I empower all of the global majority to freaking acknowledge how exhausting having emotions is. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
And you could express them or not just because they happen in your body. Quite literally, your body releases hormones that are your emotions. Is too much.
Right.
And sometimes you need to just like sit the fuck down so that you can have those and deal with those. And sometimes, like, especially when you're in a unit, you guys have to like make sure that y'all are emotionally stable, that there's like an understanding of wherever you guys are emotionally.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going through a whole like emotional potential personality transformation. Did a whole like warning tour. Was like, hey y'all, don't know who this bitch about to be. If you want to dip, it's your time.
Yeah.
Like, cause who knows? You know what I'm saying? Like, COVID is changing a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like, in people, because like the stakes are different. Whether they're higher or not is still kind of like left to be seen. It feels like they're higher. It feels like time is shorter. But other than that,
And still internalizing that and thinking about how it's going to show up in the work.
right.
Because it's different every time. Like, you've been out performing. And so I can't imagine how that is for you. Like, I'm in the process of, like, committing myself to being, like, a full-time creative and, like, developing things and working on shit and working on, like, music. And I'm like, oh, wait, this shit is bringing up emotions that, like, I didn't, like, know that I was, like, actually feeling.
So grateful for the stage. Like, it, like, with, like, ooh. Like, thank you, stage, okay? Because that thing, you just put it all out on there. You know what I'm saying? You don't even gotta, like, if you're not the sweating kind, you know what I'm saying? I am. I literally, my foot goes stage and it's like sweat. But if you're not the sweating kind, it's not even about exerting energy. You know what I'm saying? It's just like the stage is going to take it, Like, it's going to take it. And you get to leave it there. If you so choose to leave it there. If you pick it up, that's on you. But if you leave it there, it's there. And then it disappears. Nobody has to come and grab your shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, you might leave some shit on the road. Somebody might grab that, So I've been so grateful for the opportunity to perform. But there is that, like, weird shit because, like, people want to be in your face and, like, be all like, oh my God, you know what I'm saying? If you killed, you hope that they want to be in your face, you know what I'm saying, to some degree as a performer. So again, like, it's this constant juxtaposition and constant, like, being pulled in, like, several directions. You're like, I'm so glad I'm here. I want to go home right now. It doesn't benefit your career to go home right now. My motherfucker, you have to freaking, like, network. Okay, I want to network. I can't put this mask on. Look at this beat.
Right. Yeah.
They're not getting the experience, and that's what they came for.
Right.
So, okay, hopefully this vaccine does whatever, and I
We've
can
been vaccinated.
go.
We don't go there.
That's what I said. Hopefully this vaccine does whatever, and I can freaking see people without this mask in this moment, right? And then they want to be like, oh my God. You are so good. Rubbing they sweat on your sweat.
Rubbing their sweat in your sweat.
No, I feel that, and I think thank you for pointing it out. Right, we're still in it, and I think that with that, it's important to note that, like, even what the process of what I just described for us, or whatever processes people find themselves on, everything is up for debate. Everything is up for change. Like, if you wake up tomorrow and you need to pivot directions for something, then that's just what the fuck has to happen. And I feel like commitments right now are null and void unless they're to yourself, right? Like, and that, or at least that's the way I'm trying to move. It's like, I will try my best to commit to something, but at the end of the day, if what I need is what I need, I've never really practiced in my life knowing what it's like when I always choose myself. And so I'm in that practice. I'm in that practice as much as possible. And sometimes when you are not active as a voice of the people in any way, shape, or form, whether it's stage, podcast, or whatever, like, you know, that is because you need rest and people just need to fucking respect that or pay me. And that's really been my answer to everything. It's like, listen, you want me to like get my crusty ass up? That's fine. How much? For how much? For how much? Pay me. I'll do it. Like, I'll do the IG lives. I'll talk about the thing. I'll do all the stuff. Shit, I'll produce this whole podcast. This could be a weekly podcast if you want to fund it and me.
Right.